Hi, welcome to the Retro Dream Studio. Next machine in our MSX computer series, the Toshiba HX-21. Just look at that beast of a machine. Have you ever seen a more beautiful one? Such gorgeous lines and classy colors, absolutely awesome. But the question is, does it deliver as well as it looks? For the major Japanese companies, the advent of the MSX standard in 1983 was an opportunity to enter the computer industry without having to design everything from scratch, since the common machine specs were already defined. Instead of competing with completely incompatible machines, manufacturers could rely on the MSX standard and focus on design, extra features, and build quality. Toshiba, who had been producing its own computer line since 1981, called Pasopia in Japan, quickly adapted it to join the MSX initiative. Just a couple of months after the standard was announced by Microsoft and ASCII, Toshiba released the HX-10, one of the earliest MSX computers of all. A year later came the HX-20 series. There were several country-specific versions, but this particular machine was aimed at the Japanese market, as indicated by the Pasopia IQ label, along with the Japanese markings on the case and keyboard. Just like was the case with its previous machines, Toshiba reserved the Pasopia brand to those that were sold in Japan. Externally, the HX-21 has a fairly compact design. Toshiba clearly tried to make something clean and modern looking. The first big difference you could note as compared to the HX-10 is the additional ROM cartridge slot in the new model, against only one in the former. The design of the HX-21 is classier. It feels more serious with its black and white tones, as opposed to the brighter colors of the former model. Interestingly, the keyboard colors are almost exactly inverted between the black and white keys on those two machines. On the HX-10, the letter keys are white and the function keys are black, while it's the opposite on the HX-21. The keycaps have a different feel, and the key press is not the same at all. On the HX-10, the keyboard feels almost mechanical, with a firmer and clearly defined feedback when you press a key. The HX-21, on the other hand, feels softer and smoother. The keys travel more gently and the action is quieter. Some people might find it more comfortable for longer typing sessions, but others might miss the slightly more solid, clicky feel of the older machine. Another new feature, there's a small switch at the back that lets you select the stereo mode. It's a small detail, but actually quite unusual for an MSX1 machine, since most of them simply output mono sound. And if you add that some cartridges, called SCC, had their own sound chip included, like it's the case for Salamander here, the result is simply fantastic. Inside, the machine follows the typical MSX1 architecture. A Zlog Z80 processor running at 3.58 MHz, paired with the Texas Instruments TMS9918 video chip, which provides the classic MSX graphics modes. That means up to 16 colors and hardware sprites, the standard setup that powered a huge number of games on the system. even though it's technically an MSX1 computer. Toshiba added an interesting feature. It can use part of its RAM as a RAM disk, or memory disk. Basically, the system reserves a portion of the available memory and treats it like a very fast disk drive. Of course, the data disappears once the machine is turned off. Looking at the back of the Toshiba HX-21 from left to right, the first feature you encounter is the rear cartridge slot, labeled in Japanese Kei Toritsuzi Surotsuto. Sorry for my accent. This is an additional MSX cartridge slot that allows you to insert game cartridges, expansion modules, or memory cartridges. The HX-21 already has a cartridge slot on the top of the machine, but Toshiba added this second one at the back to make expansions easier to use. Moving slightly to the right, you reach a pair of RCA audio output connectors. Just next to these connectors, there is a small mono to stereo switch we already discussed. Below this section sits the printer port. Continuing to the right, you arrive at the composite video output, a yellow RCA connector. Right beside it is a small channel selector switch. This control is used when the computer is connected to a television through RF, allowing the user to select which broadcast channel the signal will use. Next to the selector is obviously the RF output itself. At the far right of the connector panel is a round 8-pin DIN socket labeled RGB. This port provides a true RGB video signal, which produces a significantly sharper and cleaner image than composite or RF when connected to a compatible monitor or a SCART adapter. The power switch is on the left side of the machine. On the right side you have two joystick ports, along with the cassette recorder port. So compared to the HX10, the HX21 feels more like a refinement than a completely new machine. In terms of pure performance, there isn't a dramatic difference. While the HX10 was Toshiba's first step into the MSX world, the HX21 feels like the company taking that first design and polishing it. The launch price of the computer was around 80,000 yen, which placed it somewhere in the middle range of the MSX market at the time. Not exactly cheap, but not the most expensive model either.
And of course, it's compatible with a giant MSX software library.
You just plug in cartridges and begin playing, like on any console. No loading time at all. I was used to playing games on my shiny red color Yashica MSX. With this black Toshiba, games almost look more serious. You can already feel it with games on a bright background like Nightmare, The Maze of Galius, or Penguin Adventure. But the effect is even more pronounced with those using a darker background like Nemesis. Or Kings Valley. And I especially like using it for basic programming. From my own perspective as a modest programmer, I find that I can do many interesting things in BASIC. I tried it on different kinds of computers, and the MSX BASIC is the one I like the most. For instance, this simple code lists all ASCII characters produced by this machine. But when it comes to more serious applications like word processor, database, or spreadsheet, it really feels like this machine was made for this purpose.
I hope you enjoyed this light review and that it brought up memories for MSX owners, or that it made you curious to dig deeper into these fascinating machines. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon for another retro dream.